Hey guys, I'm Matt Lighty, and this video is going to show you how to infinitely rush Sanctums, kill the Bird Lady and the Beyond Zone Zalicia once every roughly half hour. And this is if you want to grind out, relics or original sin attempts or Sanctum just goodies. There's like 2 to 3 prerequisites for this method. One of them is having like a non-shit build that could just kind of walk through Sanctum at a decent pace regardless of what's happening and kind of full clear that. That's step 1. 2 is you need a fuck ton of maps, and 3 is you need your entire atlas and favorite setup so you could support that fuck ton of maps. That's about it. This method is not fun. I don't particularly think this is enjoyable. I don't think this is healthy for the game. I think this is just bad vibes all around. Step 1, how do you get the maps to do this, right? Well, your atlas looking like this is a good start. This is picking up every single one of the small duplicate and adjacent nodes with wandering path, increasing their effect. You also get the effect nodes at the top, and then you have a little bit left over, so you can kind of pick one thing that you want to potentially touch or kill on the way to the Sanctum. I've picked Smuggler's Caches because they're easy to identify, click and loot from within about 10 seconds, non-invasive. You can do things if you want, like Nico for Sulfite. Beasts are kind of a wash because you're not going to be able to, do it. You don't want things that slow you down. That's the other part of it. So you have to pick something that fits that theme of you're walking in, you're walking out. Your maps will unironically last 10 to 15 seconds sometimes. Second thing is you want your favorite slots. You think, well, you want to pick maps that work really well with this method. Atoll is a good one. Coves are a good one. You obviously want to pick adjacent maps, right? Because if you don't pick adjacent maps, you're not going to benefit from that aspect of it. So Atoll and Coves, you're going to get also the other adjacents sometimes, but these are the two it's going to really stick towards. You don't want to put on singular focus because you don't want to lose maps in total. Also killing maps off of bosses, which you'll sometimes kill. So I like Atoll because it's adjacent to Coves, and Coves is good. But also, Atoll has like a 80% chance to spawn the Sanctum right here in this first section. Things just like to spawn right around here. You can see by both the Azurite nodes and by the 2 maps, and by the Smuggler's Caches. And if the thing doesn't spawn right here, what I tend to recommend is you just loop right, and then you actually loop all the way around and go kill the boss, and then you continue the loop, and then you'll find the Sanctum that way. Atoll's also nice because it rhymes with a-hole, which is, of course, short for apple hole, because this is the core of our strategy. The other thing is you're going to be doing a lot of maps. You're proccing a lot of the Exarch and Eater progress. As long as you kill like 1 to 2 mobs, it typically just procs the progress, and it'll count. You don't have to actually kill the boss, except on the 28th. It's going to stay there. It's not going to recircle around. So once it gets to 28, it's going to stay at 28, so you want to kill the boss on the 28th influenced map. If you don't kill the boss on the 14th influenced map halfway through the circle, you lose it. Straight up, you just lose it. So if you go and kill it on the 15th, you're not going to get there. Yeah, the Exarch one, you'll always sit there. So try to be patient, cognizant of that happening. Another reason to do this, I guess if you're in Trade League, is Sanctum as a concept, right, has finite loot. There's no way to scale the loot of what you're getting in Sanctum. No amount of quantity, no amount of player skill is scaling that loot. You clear all 32 Sanctums, you're going to get exactly what you're going to get, maybe 1 to 2 divines on average. So all that you can scale is how fast you acquire and clear them. That's what we're doing. Sanctums are 32 maps long, so we want to lay out ourselves, unfortunately, 32 maps. What you want to do, if anything, I don't want to invest into these per se. I just go down the list and alch them, right? Because you do want an amount of quantity, since when you're running around, if you're in a map that you can't quickly identify where the Sanctum is, you want to kill some stuff on the way, because that's going to let you generate maps. So let's give you an example. We'll just do Crimson Temple because it's what I have just here. You want to lay out your full thing first. You could time this if you want how fast it is. Crimson Temple's a little bit of a slower one. But again, we're ignoring everything but the one thing I clicked on. So for me, it's that, and we're in the Sanctum. I see the things procced. Do I have to confirm? This is a fresh one I do. I've procced it. I'm in, and then I'm out. That's it. Like 10 to 15 seconds. Cool. Now you do that 32 times. And every 8 maps you have to run the Sanctum. That's the part that gets you. That's how quick these go. It's but that's it. There's really nothing more to it than what I just showed you. I can show you another one as context. You're gonna burn through your maps like a crazy person. That's why you pick up all the small map nodes, because you want to have it so when you're basically clearing around. And my filter's not even strict enough for this. I would crank your filter as almost strict as humanly possible. You know, maps to sustain, and that's really about it, if anything. Because you wanna, like I said, you wanna walk in, tag the Sanctum, maybe set up a portal, even set up if you want, just so you can have it on spacebar. Walk in, walk out, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Ideally have a map that is not too negatively affected, or like, you know, a build's not too affected by map modifiers, because again, you're trying to burn through these, you know, like a Baptist book burning. You're trying to get through the pages as fast as possible here, and just watch your mini map markers for anytime maps drop or anything super important. Like all jewelers, I would hide those. Fusings, probably even chaos, honestly. We're going super strict in a perfect world, because you want to get in, get out as fast as possible to do these as efficiently possible. Now you notice currently I've done 3 maps. I've not gotten a return. That's not uncommon. On average, you're going to be losing maps doing this. This is not like a day one plot. I wouldn't start this with 1 map. You want to have a nice little buffer, because you're going to be losing maps on average. But every now and then when you do hit a nice pile, you'll get a couple returns. I see something back there, this mark. Boom, boom, and I'm in and out. That's that. You could just do this, you know, ad nauseum, pretty much. The more you craft your maps, like the ones that are rare, they'll give better returns for maps, because that's how that works. And then try to be cognizant of when you're on the 14th to not miss getting that free Black Star or Fat Boy, because you don't want to miss those potentially. But I don't recommend having things again like Harvest or Legion or Blight or Abyss. It really is counterproductive. The goal here, you know. So I think we're on 14. Okay, so we're on 14. I'll put it in a coves just so it's easier to find the boss. Actually, I already missed my 14th. Or is this the 14th? Yeah, there's a map drop. That's one of our favorite maps at all. Now we're at -4 maps, right? So if you want to like kind of keep tally of that, we're at -4 for maps currently. So here's the boss. The boss, I would say 50-50 drops maps. Typically. This time it did not. Unfortunate. Okay. I didn't drop Black Star, so I must have missed my window there, which is also is what it is. So yeah, that was the previous map would have been the one I wanted to do. Yeah, it's really a little awkward because there's 28 maps in the Exarch Eater cycle, but you know, the Sanctums are in sets of 32. The only other concession I would make is when you are starting off on a Sanctum, because of oftentimes the first brick of Sanctums it displays will very often have it just a wall of negatives, right? You know, sometimes it has like a wall of negatives. There's a double map drop, Temple 16. It doesn't really matter. You want them to be your favorite maps, obviously, but if they're not, heck, it doesn't really, you know, maps are maps. You're burning through them. Again, now we're -2 for maps, or 3, so it's, you can see like you'll kind of sustain. Sometimes you'll walk through a map like this and you'll get 10 map drops, unironically, you know. So it just, whatever happens. But yeah, you want to check your Sanctum. So like this first one doesn't have, you know, this has like room rewards unknown. You wouldn't want that in the beginning. So say like this, and then there's 2 other ones that are equally detrimental in the very start. I would just reset that Sanctum. It saves your room storages, so don't worry. But I would just reset that Sanctum. Aside from that, that's about as much effort as I'd put forth in tempting or tampering with your Sanctums. And this is where we would be starting it now, right? Because this is whatever. So assuming your first one was fine, this is where you set off and you do all 8 Sanctums. Again, have a build that can clear these quite quickly. You don't want to be lollygagging about. So the whole thing with this is, again, Sanctum has a flat amount of loot, right? There's no scaling the amount of loot Sanctum gives you. It just is what it is. The faster you can do it, the better it is. So you want to be in and out of each room, and then, you know, 45 seconds to a minute. That way you're only adding 30 minutes of your time is the actual Sanctum. You can do the whole thing under a half hour. But yeah, that's it. This is the entire process, basically. There's not a whole lot more than that. If you want to kill bosses on the way, you can. If you want to take a little bit longer, pick up the nodes for killing bosses, but then you have to drop a wandering path. Or you could just keep wandering path and just kill bosses for the percent chance drop of like conquer maps, that sort of stuff. That's fine too. The faster the build, the more leeway you can have with it. That's the entire process for map rushing Sanctums. You average one again every 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how fast you are and how fast the build is. So you could really crank out Sanctums at quite this speed, I would say. If you're in Trade League, this is probably a 2 to 3 divine an hour method at minimum. As I was making the video, I was curious for Trade League, like what it would actually be like. So no one's going to dispute you get, you know, we'll say 2 divines per hour from Sanctum map rushing. And I was also checking the price of invitations. You get at least, obviously, 1 invitation incandescent every Sanctum rush, I guess, plus Polaric. Might want to run the Polarics, the Wither, whatever the one you pick, and then that plus this, which I think is about a divine 222 chaos. A divine is 256, so close to that. So yeah, you're looking pretty much bang on between 2 to 3 divines per hour minimum between the invitation and the actual loot from the Sanctum. That's, you know, an hour if you're slow, because you can do this whole process in 30 minutes if you're quicker. That's almost 5 to 6 divine an hour. So you're moving at like a pretty decent pace. Not to mention any of the actual loot you get off of the actual Beyond Lycia boss herself, or stuff you find as you're blowing through maps. That's it. That's the entirety of the process. I'm gonna go run these next maps and then do my Sanctums begrudgingly. And hopefully I'll get the cool things that I want, and hopefully you do too. I'm Mathew Lighty, and this is the entirety of this video and this process. Sanctum rushing. There you go.